That night, while I was lying in the RV with my heart beating out of my chest, looking at the ceiling, if you would have asked me if I'd be alive the next morning, I would have sincerely and honestly told you, I do not know. When I was laying there in this RV on the coast of Oregon, my heart was beating out of my chest because I had been rolling into drug usage of this particular drug nonstop for 4 days and multiple doses daily. And I'd never been exposed to this drug before. And that last day, my heart was just beating out of my chest. It was like almost like a muscle that's cramping up that you feel start to like lock up and it's like really tense. That's what my heart felt like. And it felt like it was just going to stop, or it felt like it was just going to like explode. And what happened before that, well, there's a whole story there. So I was traveling out to the West Coast to just visit the country. I was just driving, kind of a hippie nomad. I've driven all over the country, and I drove out to the West Coast from Florida to Texas to New Mexico to San Diego to visit my sister, and I drove up the coast to Oregon to visit some friends. And these friends I had met at a biohacking and health conference about a year before. And one of the first things that I noticed when I got there was the guy, it's a married couple, the guy had these like massive bags under his eyes, like just massive. It's super obvious. And I just thought, well, that's strange. Like, it doesn't seem like his kidneys or his adrenals are that healthy. Like, what's going on? I didn't think much about it until he offered me this particular drug. And while I was there, by the way, when I first got there, I looked at their home and their family, and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful family. Beautiful couple, beautiful people, very good looking, beautiful kids, 3 kids, beautiful home, garden, Tesla and RV in the front, pool and hot tub and full court basketball court in the back. Just beautiful home, beautiful property, beautiful life on the outside. But when I got there, I started to recognize very quickly that there was like an underbelly within this family, and I could tell that their relationship as a couple was not healthy at all. There was this like undertone of bitterness and anger and resentment between the husband and the wife, more so from, well, I don't need to get into details, but there was a bitterness and a resentment there. And what I recognized immediately, like within a day, was that the male friend of mine, he offered me this drug. And he offered it to me because he was like, we were talking about it, and he's like, I love this drug, it's great. And I'm like, yeah, I've never tried it. He's like, really? He's like, I'm surprised you've never tried that. And I'm like, yeah, I've been around it a lot at like festivals and things and all these like hippies that I would hang out with, but I've never actually experienced it. So he's like, I'm gonna get you to try it. And I'm like, all right. So he gives it to me for free, and I take it, and I'm like, whoa. I remember going downstairs in his basement and just watching some basketball. It was like the Steph Curry, and my mind was elated. I felt euphoric. My dopamine and serotonin were just like, woo, like it was like fairy dust hit my brain. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that feels good. Like, I've been searching for something like this. Like, cannabis wasn't enough. Shrooms weren't enough. Like, the other things that I had used were just not enough. And this was better. I like this more. This was a higher high. So that day goes by, and I was intended on leaving the next day. So like, yeah, you can stay for a night as you're traveling up the coast. And then the next day he's like, hey, you want some more? And I was like, yeah. So he just kept like dishing me more of this drug, more of this drug. I would come down, he'd give me more. I would come down, he'd give me more. And it was completely free. And it was like the purest stuff. Like, it was like super pure. And it wasn't cocaine, by the way. But anyways, so he keeps giving it to me. And then I'm intending to leave like that day, and then like this day keeps extending because he's like, hey man, don't leave, like we like you here, like the kids like you, like they're like, don't go, like we like you here, like we have fun with you. And I'm like, all right, I'll stay another day, and this keeps happening for like 2, 3, 4 days. And I think I ended up staying there like 4 or 5 days, and every single day I re-up on this drug, and not only one time but 2 times or 3 times. And then the final day, I'm about to leave, and it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Like, I gotta stop. Like, I gotta get out of here. Like, every day I was like, I gotta go. But then he's like, well, we were thinking it'd be cool to take the RV and drive to the coast and, go on this little adventure and just stay there overnight. And we have this beach house there on the ocean. We can just crash there and, hang out at the beach and, just hang out overnight. And I was like, pfft. Say less, like let's go. So I packed up my little bag, whatever, water bottles or whatever, And we all hopped in the RV and we started heading for the coast. And it's this beautiful drive. Oregon is beautiful. Washington is beautiful. It's this beautiful drive, super scenic. And I think I'm high at the time. Still, I had to be, like, because I was just like, wow. We get to the coast and we just start, all of us, all adults there, just start rolling into more and more of this usage of this drug, while the kids are just, running around playing. And that last day I was there, I had to have used this drug at least 2 times, at least. It was probably 3 or 4 or 5 times. Like, I don't even know. Like, I could not tell you. It was probably 3, 4, or 5 times. And that night, I laid down to go to sleep in their RV because their beach house was being worked on and renovated. So we basically parked in the parking, like, of their house there. And so I'm laying in the RV, and the husband and wife and 3 kids are, we all lay down to go to sleep. And I'm laying in like the top part of the RV, and I'm just laying there, and my body is just like, and my heart just is like, for like the last hour or two, it's just been getting like more like stressed, and it's just beating harder and faster. It feels like a muscle that's like it just feels like it's gonna like lock up and stop. Like, it feels like it's working so hard just for the next beat. And I just remember sitting there and laying there and thinking, like, I could die tonight. Like, I just remember sitting there and laying there and thinking, I could die tonight easily. Like, like, it's like a 50-50 shot. Like, I was laying there thinking, okay, like, this might be the end. But then I just remember thinking, like, what a horrible way to die. Like, just imagine 3 small children, 2 girls and a small boy, and 2 adults waking up in the morning to a friend of theirs that they barely know, that they have been feeding drugs to for 4 days straight, dead in their RV. And I just remember sitting there thinking about that, and thinking about my life, and thinking about how I didn't have a purpose, I didn't have a direction, I was just scattered. I would travel anywhere, I was like super nomadic. I would, go with the wind. And I just remember partially accepting I could die tonight, but another part of me was like fighting and saying, like, God, I don't want to die. Like, please don't let me die. Like, I know I have more. I know I have another reason to live. Like, I know there's more for me here on this earth. I don't want to die yet. I can't die yet. And I just remember feeling so depleted and so weak, and my heart just being like, I'm done with you. Like, I felt like I betrayed my heart with those drugs, and my heart was like, yo, I'm going to tap out on you. Like, I'm going to end it for you because you just keep abusing me, whether it's physically with drugs or emotionally with relationships. Like, you don't have any respect for your temple. You need to go. That's like, my body was telling me, you need to go. And the demons inside of me, which I am sure I had, were also telling me that I needed to go, because there was other points in my life where I would utilize drugs and I would have this spirit of death come over me, and I would do things that would put myself into a predicament where I could have very easily died. And I even told myself, like, if I died tonight, I don't care. Like, if I died, like, I was completely indifferent about death. And I even fantasized at some point in time about an accident that would occur where I would die. So it wouldn't be like a suicide or anything, but I would die and it would just look like an accident. But really, I was putting myself into a position or predicament where I could die and it would look like a natural death, on my motorcycle. I was high on my motorcycle, going 100 plus miles an hour, which is like the stupidest thing you can do. Slow your body down, slow your senses down, and speed up. That's just crazy. So that night, when I woke up in the morning, I just remember thinking, wow, like, thank God I'm alive. And we went and got breakfast. And as the very last day there, I finally left. Thank God. I don't think I could have survived another day there on this drug. And the last day I was there, they took their kids to school, and both the husband and the wife, I sat down with them in the back by their pool, and I just started to talk with them about their relationship. And I didn't know Christ at the time. I didn't know God at the time. But I've always had a deep, deep hunger to heal broken homes and relationships. And I think it stems from my own childhood. It does. And just like all the things that I've experienced in my life personally. So as I sat there and I talked with them, uh, I just like pleaded with them, like, and like I said, I didn't know Christ at the time, but I pleaded with them. I pleaded with the man, I pleaded with the woman, and I tried to get them to see each other's sides. I tried to get them to see each other's perspectives and to reconcile and to understand how they were hurting each other and to understand what was causing this reaction or response and what was causing the bitterness and resentment and what was causing the emasculation and what was causing this and this and this and that. Because I could still see it clearly. Even though I didn't know Christ, I have had some very interesting experiences with relationships in my life, one in particular, that taught me a lot. And I could see things in the relationship that were unhealthy. And even though the guy was telling me that using this drug gave him more empathy and compassion, and he was, he could be more empathetic and compassionate towards his wife, I told him, even at the time when I didn't know Christ, I said, yeah, but actually, I don't even know if I told him, but this is what I told myself at least. I recognized, or I realized, that if you're going into a state on a drug where your dopamine and serotonin and, all these like happy brain chemicals, whatever it is, right, are elevated, and you go in to communicate with someone, you're going to be light and friendly and compassionate and empathetic. But then you have to come down from the drug, which this family didn't like to do, so they stayed high in the drug. But the problem is you're always going to have to come down. Otherwise, you will literally die. You can take that drug to the point of death and physically die, or you have to come down from the drug and face reality. So when you come down from that elated state of high dopamine, high serotonin, high this, high that, you have to face the facts. And the fact remains that there's bitterness, resentment, emasculation, there's this, and that. One party isn't listening. One party is judging. One party is not stepping up and being this in the household. One party is, taking on too much burden and too much weight. Like, the imbalances are still there. The trauma is still there. The pain and suffering is still there. And you have to work through those things in order to create resolution and wholeness. And I remember I sat with them for like 2 hours just talking with them and pleading with them, and they kind of saw, like, I got through to them a little bit with what I could with my limited understanding and knowledge and without Christ, but it was still my own understanding, so it didn't go very far. And I just remember leaving that home, driving away, and I called my sister in Seattle, and I just remember calling her. And I stopped to get gas or something, and I called her and I was telling her about, everything except for the drugs. And I was telling her about the relationship and this and that. And I just remember telling her, how sad I was. I felt so sad. I was sad. I was so sad. I was so depleted because I went from this high, drugs, pool, hot tub, basketball, my childhood dream home, literally in a nutshell, pool, hot tub, basketball court. That was my childhood dream. It was I lived this childhood dream, plus I was on drugs, and I was with this beautiful family, this mixed family, this blended family that had so much just a beautiful family. But yet the outside was beautiful and everything looked great, but the inside was severely broken and traumatized and hurt. And so that high that I had came down. And the ending there, where the reality of the matter of the relationship was very unhealthy and very toxic. And by the way, today they're divorced, and their kids are obviously going to grow up in a broken home, which is even sadder. I just remember sharing this with my sister and crying on the phone, just breaking down and crying, because I was how can the desire and everything seem so good, but all at the same time be so bad? It's this parody or this duality of existence where everything that you want and desire, in my life when I was there, I was this is the life that I want, and then at the end I was oh my god, this is everything I don't want. It's just a repetitive, it's repeating my childhood and the divorce that my parents had, and then the relationships that I had in my adulthood where I traumatized myself further because I didn't go to Christ. I went to women, and I went to drugs, and I went to festivals, and I went to explore and pleasure and flesh and soul-driven pursuits, but I ignored because I didn't even know or have any awareness of who the Spirit of God was in my life. So as I cried to my sister on the phone, I was just like so hurt and I was so broken and I was like, I just felt so hopeless. And there's been certain times in my life where I've been around people where I've felt super hopeless, and I go somewhere and I'm like, this is great. I feel good. I'm in Costa Rica. I'm in Oregon. I'm in the ocean. I'm doing drugs. I'm having fun. And like I try to go higher to get out of that low, and then I just come crashing down. And it's like it's like this higher high that I seek leads to this lower low that I didn't seek. And that happened every time, like without fail, every single time. And the reason, didn't think I was going to get emotional. And the reason I think that still affects me to this day in my emotions is because I know exactly what people are searching for. I know exactly what they want. I know exactly what they need. But when you look in all the wrong places for something that you need and that you want, you'll only come up empty-handed. And it's such an exhaustive and depleting and draining and traumatizing journey that if you continue down that path, you will die. And if you don't die physically, you will die spiritually. And when you die spiritually, you might as well die physically, because at that point you could care less anyway. So, the point of this story has nothing to do with me. The point of this story is to share with you what God has done through me and in me to transform me from someone who literally craved death, that wanted to die, that didn't want to exist, that didn't want to be seen or heard anymore, because I thought that I would never be seen, I would never be heard. God took me from that and He gave me so much purpose for life that all I want to do is go to people that are 2 steps from their grave and pull them out, yank them out, like literally pull them out and be like, no, not today. Not today. Because when you're at the end of your road, you need something new. You need something new to break through. And if it wasn't for the grace of God, if it wasn't for Jesus Christ, I promise you, I would not be alive today. I would be dead on the side of a highway, death by motorcycle, but induced by drugs on a motorcycle, which is so stupid. So stupid. Or I would have just overdosed or done something so stupid in order to be seen or heard that I would have caused my own death in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, in order to be seen, in order to be heard, in order to be validated, just because I was that desperate. Honestly, just for love. But I didn't know what love was. I never knew what love was. I never knew what love was. I never knew what love was until I was like 32. I really didn't. I really didn't know what love was until I was like 32 years old. Even within my family, even within knowing Christ, even within knowing God growing up, I didn't know what true love was. I always thought there was attachments. I always thought there was contingencies. I always thought there was conditions. I always thought I was wrong. I always thought I wasn't worthy. I never wanted to be a burden. I never wanted to create more suffering. I always thought I was a part of the problem. I never thought I was a part of the solution. I didn't know God's Spirit was in me. I thought my soul was something that God had to punish continuously. I thought that the reason things happened to me in my life the way that they did was because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy enough. So I sought experiences that validated those beliefs and those preconceived ideas, which were lies from the pit of hell. I have learned so much. Like, I could talk for hours about what God has brought me through and what God has taught me from what He brought me through. In the last 2-3 years of my life, God has literally redeemed, restored, renewed, cleansed, purified, like, every part of me. Like, the deepest, darkest, most, like, despicable, like, nasty things. Like, if I told you what was in my mind and what was in my heart, like, you wouldn't want to know me. Like, literally, you wouldn't want to know me. But God took all of that and completely, radically pulled me out of my own grave, took my dust and gave me new and living water, gave me the breath of life again. So when I tell you, and if I ever do tell you, that I'm born again, you better believe it. Because there's nothing more true than that in my entire existence, and I will die on that hill. Just like Christ died on his. I love y'all. And more importantly, Christ loves you more than I or any human ever could. Peace.